Let's talk about the last church. Can you believe we've been through all 7 churches? Revelation chapter 3, verse 14. A very familiar passage, a very good passage, one that we always need to keep in our minds and hearts. Revelation 3:14. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, These things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness. And I love this as a name for Jesus, the beginning of the creation of God. How would you like to have a name like that? That's pretty awesome, isn't it? Verse 15, I know thy works. Remember we said that those 4 words are in every letter to each church. I know thy works. And it shows you the importance of how one day we will answer and be judged for everything we've done in this life and in this body, the Scriptures teaches. So we better have our works in line. Faith without works is dead. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I wish you were cold or hot. And so we know the coldness there that's being talked about is talking about being cold towards God. The hot is someone who is hot after God, hot in pursuit, loving God, seeking God. And he says, but you're neither, you're lukewarm. So then because thou art lukewarm, all right, so someone who is lukewarm is obviously someone who doesn't oppose God. They're not against God. They probably even call themselves a Christian. Well, they definitely do here in this church. But they're not passionate about God. God is not the focus of their affection and the focus of their pursuit in life. He's just an addition. He's a hobby. When I get around to it, these people are lukewarm. They like him, but they're not in love with him. So then because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, that's quite a statement. Jesus would rather you be against him and cold rather than be in the state of being lukewarm. Because you're in this state, I will vomit you or spew thee out of my mouth. When you think of how repulsed this description it's really something to be vomited out of Jesus' mouth. I mean, can you just picture that? That shows how repulsed he is by lukewarmness. He wants us to be passionate. He wants Jesus to be the focus and the center of our life and heart and affections. He wants to be the center of every minute of our life. And if you're lukewarm, he vomits you out. He rejects you. Verse 17, because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing. And so we're talking tonight, just as a reminder, about the danger of money. Money is a dangerous thing, and we all need it, and we all like it. We like having it much better than we like not having it. But there's a real balance that always has to be maintained in our hearts. We have to know how dangerous money really is. I thought it was interesting. I was talking to Dave Lewis this past week, and you know what he's been through. When he was working in the brokerage industry, he was making really good money and really didn't need anything. They had everything they needed or could want. And now, since all the trials that he's been through, you know, he went to Hobby Lobby and started working for $10 an hour, and that was after many months of being unemployed. And he said it's just taught him so much, and he, having been rich and now poor, he can really see the dangers of money and how it can grip our heart and become the center of our pursuit, and it robs us of God. So he's saying here in verse 17, because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing. That's the deception of money. Money is power. And especially in our society, one of the worst things we have in this society is easy credit. So even when we don't have the money, we can still taste of the power of money and be just as deceived. And so it's the deception of thinking, I have power, I can make things happen, I can take care of myself. This money gives me status. It gives me image. It impresses people. I can get my way with it. And so we become very self-sufficient and independent, which is exactly what we don't want to be with the Lord. And so money is very deceitful. It gives us a euphoric high that's nothing but a lie. And he says, you don't know that you are wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. And the important thing to remember about that statement there is that every one of us here tonight are wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. That's not describing, this poor group of people over there and, we feel bad for them, but we're different. No, we are all, every man, every woman, every child is wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked in their own natural state without Jesus Christ. And so you may be a millionaire or a billionaire and have all of that money and wealth and power and status, but you are a wretched millionaire. You are a miserable, poor, blind, and naked millionaire. Money does not change that. He said, but you're in this delusion, this deception of thinking that you can take care of yourself, that you have power, you can make things happen. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire. Nothing like a good old trial to beat the snot out of you, right? Teaches you a few lessons in life, teaches you that you're not all that, teaches you that you really do need God, that there are situations and problems and circumstances in life much bigger than you that you can't handle. And so nothing like a good old-fashioned trial, that fiery trial that comes and teaches us those lessons of dependency upon God, teaches us the depth of our need for God. He said, when you start to get that kind of wisdom that comes from trials and that comes from need, that's when you are rich. That's when you're clothed. You're no longer naked, but you're clothed with white raiment, the righteousness of Christ. That thou mayest be clothed, that the shame of thy nakedness does not appear, that you anoint your eyes with eye salve so that you mayest see. So that you can see God for who He is, so you can see yourself for who you are, so that you can see and understand how desperately you need Him every hour, so that you can see the deception of money, how dangerous money can be. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. God is not opposed at all to sending a trial when we need to be chastened, when we need to learn how much we need Him. Be zealous, therefore, and repent. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. And if any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in His throne. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. So I just put these bullet points, which I think we've already covered. Prosperity and wealth they don't have to, but they can deceive the heart with the delusion of self-sufficiency, pride, and power. We'll talk about that a little bit more in two of the verses we're going to talk about. Prosperity and wealth can blind our hearts and minds to the depths of our neediness. It is eternally better to suffer need and adversity in this life, to stay convinced of our need and dependence upon God, rather than become independent from God through the pride of wealth. That's what Revelation is teaching us. It's better for you to have nothing and know how much you need God than to have wealth and think that you don't need Him. Any blessing, provision, or resource that we have is from God and God alone. It is a great deception to think that our power, efforts, or abilities have attained those things for us. And we've all, you look at the Donald Trumps, or actually, he's not even that rich comparatively to some of these other guys. You look at Bill Gates or somebody like that, and you think, wow, they must be really smart, or they're really gifted, or they're really talented, they may have some skill sets and some intelligence that has helped them along the way, but bottom line is they wouldn't have $1 of what they have without the Lord. And for whatever reason, God in his sovereignty chose to make this one rich and this one not so rich. And that's all God. And so you can never see the amount of money that you have or the lack thereof as a reflection of your worth or a reflection of your character. It's not. It's all a gift from God. And we'll see that as we go through these scriptures. Wealth and money are dangerous in both the pursuit of the money and in the possession of the money. So, if you have less money than more money, you can probably be very thankful tonight and say, thank God for keeping me humble on the straight and narrow. It's nice to have our needs met, isn't it? And God has promised that. But we need to be very aware of the dangers of wealth. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6, godliness with contentment is great gain. Being content with being godly. I don't need anything else. I just want to be like God. I want to be with Jesus. I want to know him. I want his life flowing through me. That's what makes me happy. That's what makes me content. I don't need stuff or money. For he brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. Having food and raiment, let us therewith be what? Content. So what is he saying? Do you have the necessities of life tonight? If you have the necessities of life, be content. Don't be covetous. Don't be jealous. Don't be striving after more wealth or more money. Be content with the necessities of life. Verse 9, but they that will be rich, and it's talking about those that will to be rich. I will be rich. I want to be rich. That's going to be my pursuit in life. They fall into temptation and a what? A snare. Not just a temptation, but they get themselves entangled in a trap that they can't get out of. You know, it's amazing as you kind of go up the ladder, you know, and you get a bigger home or a better car or whatever. And sometimes the simple home is a lot better. You know how much upkeep and how much money it takes to maintain a bigger home? Sometimes that little home is really attractive. Less upkeep, less care, less money to repair it and maintain it. And so that's the trap that all these things get into. And, you know, as you start to acquire more stuff, you need more stuff to take care of the stuff that you're acquiring, and it just becomes a noose, a snare around your neck, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men. This covetousness, this love for money, I have to have more, it suffocates you, it drowns you in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil. Not that money itself is evil, that's not what it's saying. Money can be good when it's used right. So it's not saying that money in and of itself is evil, it's saying that lust of, I have to have more, that covetousness, that heart of Lucifer that says, I'm not content with what God has made me, I want to ascend into another position higher than what I have. I have to have more. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, watch what happens when we start to go down that path of having to have more money just for selfish desires. They have erred from the faith, takes you away from your pursuit of God, and pierce themselves through with what? Many sorrows. Money can be a very dangerous thing. But thou, O man of God, flee these things. Don't flee from money, flee from the pursuit of money. Flee from the pride of money. Flee from the dependency and trust in money. And follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and meekness. And then this passage that we all know so well, Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 7. For the Lord thy God bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks, of water, of fountains and depths that spring out of valleys and hills. Sounds a lot like this nation. A land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates. A land of olive oil, of oil olive and honey. A land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness. Thou shalt not lack anything in it, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills thou mayest dig brass. When thou hast eaten and art full, then thou shalt bless the Lord thy God for the good land which he hath given thee. This was really the passage of Scripture that prompted me to do offerings like we do on Sunday mornings. I do believe that as a church, as a family, there needs to be at least one service a week, a time where we bless God and remind ourselves that he is our source. It's not this world. Beware that thou forget not the Lord thy God. We start to take God for granted. We start to assume that somehow I have provided this for myself, or I don't really need God because now I can, with money, take care of anything that I need. So he says, beware that you don't forget not the Lord thy God. Lest when thou hast eaten and art full, and hast built goodly houses and dwell therein, and when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, and thy silver and thy gold is multiplied, and all that thou hast is multiplied, then thy heart be lifted up, and thou forget the Lord thy God. And it's not even something that we would say doctrinally. It's not even something that we would utter out of our mouth, but it's an attitude of the heart. Your heart is now lifted up. I don't need God anymore. You would never say that. You would probably never even think that, but that's how you act. That's how you live now. You forget that he brought you forth out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, who led thee through that great and terrible wilderness, wherein were fiery serpents and scorpions and drought, where there was no water, who brought thee forth water out of the rock of flint, who fed thee in the wilderness with manna. What is this all saying? You forgot who the source of your life is. You forgot who gave you these things in the first place. And thou say in thine heart, my power and the might of my hand. See, that's the deception of money. The deception of money is, I now have power to make happen what I want to happen. And somehow it's because of me. I'm so gifted, I'm so smart, I'm so diligent. It's because of me that I've gotten this wealth. But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth. He gave you that skill set. He gave you that intelligence. He gives you the health and the strength to get up and go to work every morning. He gives thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers, as it is this day. And that's another aspect that we won't get into now, but he gives you what he gives you for a purpose. It's not just to be used selfishly on your own desires. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a vacation or going and buying, dinner at your favorite restaurant. There's nothing wrong with any of that. That's not what he's saying. But the primary purpose for the finances that he has blessed you with is to be used on establishing his covenant, giving into the kingdom, helping a brother or sister who's in financial need, that he may establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers, as it is this day. And I think this goes back to Jesus vomiting us out of his mouth because we're lukewarm, because we trust in our riches or our wealth or our prosperity. We say we don't need God. That's how repulsed Jesus is by a heart like that. Look what he says here in verse 19. It shall be, if thou do at all forget the Lord thy God, and walk after other gods, and serve them, and worship them, I testify against you this day that you shall surely perish. The other gods, like the gods of your career, the god of money, the god of wealth or materialism, and the nations which the Lord destroyeth before your face, so shall ye perish. Money is a dangerous thing. It's not evil in and of itself, and we need money, and God provides us with money, but it can never, ever become the love of our heart. As the nations which the Lord destroyeth before your face, so shall ye perish, because you would not be obedient unto the voice of the Lord your God, You didn't remember who your source was. You didn't think you needed God anymore. So God spare us. God deliver us from that temptation.